and there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go.
Bunch of who saw this coming. I mean, there's stories all over the country, and the only thing I can do is just sit back and say, yeah, I didn't see that coming at all. Except, of course, that they're all entirely predictable. That the Democrats are now saying they did the right thing in shutting down the government for 43 days. The socialists in Seattle are saying exactly what we need is yet another socialist running the place. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in between. Welcome to the program, my friends. Cowboy State Politics Live on a Thursday. Just to give you kind of a roadmap of what's going to happen today and tomorrow, there will not be an episode of the program tomorrow. Agent 29 and I have to head to somewhere close to Nebraska to do a job. If you didn't know, we provide sound for different events every now and again. And so we've got one of those tomorrow, somewhere over in the nether regions. Nobody really ever goes there, which I don't even know why we're going there, except to maybe make a couple bucks.
You know why it's so windy in Wyoming?
Because Colorado sucks and Montana blows.
Well, I was thinking the other way around.
Well, pretty close, right?
Yeah, that's kind of.
Well, actually, you know what, Ken?
If it's you look Utah and Nebraska.
If you look at the windmills in Cheyenne or in Casper, the wind apparently doesn't blow there either.
Yeah, the ones that are sitting there waiting to be torn down.
It's amazing. But I thought that all of this was supposed to be sustainable, but I guess it's not. Well, anyway, my friends, on today's show, we are going to have a socialist running the other left coast of our country. She's a fascinating individual, and just wait until you listen to her. She's not full-blown communist, though. No, just radical socialist. But we begin this morning with the Senate Democrats and the Blaze. The Democrats insist that the shutdown was definitely worth it, despite fully surrendering to Republicans. And I quote, Democratic senators finally capitulated to Republicans after the drawn-out, record-breaking government shutdown, although Democrats didn't actually accomplish anything. They maintained that the shutdown was absolutely worth it. Democrats originally shut down the government to force Republicans' hand on extending health care subsidies from the Affordable Care Act that are set to expire at the end of the year. That is a long sentence.
I wonder if they'd have thought it was worth it if they didn't get their paychecks. Not that any of them really need those paychecks, because they have other checks coming. But
well, no, it just shows you that they really don't care, that everything is politics with the left. And it all comes down to a difference in worldview. You see, the Democrats believe that the ends justify the means. And they are never driving at what is immediately in front of them. So in this case, the subsidies for Obamacare that apparently we're going to go to illegal aliens. That's not their goal at all. Really, their goal was to obstruct anything that President Trump was going to do and play it out as long as possible.
I think we on the other side would say, instead of the ends justify the means, if the means are just, the end will be okay.
Well, yeah, and therein lies the difference between the two parties.
Yeah,
the Democrats think that no matter what your end goal is so important that it doesn't matter how you get there, and so they can hurt people, deprive people of their liberties. That none of that matters so long as they get to their end goal. Which is why Republicans all the time we say, how could they lie so much and sleep at night? How is it possible that they could stand in front of the mirror and shave every morning and yet lie all day long? Well, it's because they believe that the ends justify the means, that it doesn't matter what they do now, so long as they get their end goal. That's what's important. You see, conservatives, we would never make that argument. For conservatives, how we get to a solution is at least as important or more important than the end goal itself. I mean, you would never catch Republicans, well, true Republicans, switching up the goalposts or cheating in order to win a game. Most conservatives would think that if you cheat to win, well, that's not really winning because you change the rules and there's no fun in that. So you have two entirely different and competing worldviews when it comes to Democrats and Republicans. And frankly, that's one of the big reasons why we don't understand each other. Why it is difficult for the Democrats to sit down and have a conversation with conservatives because they can't bridge that gap between philosophies.
That's where the idea of projection, I think, comes from too.
Absolutely, it is.
This, if I were doing that, this would be my motivation. So therefore, it must be theirs.
Yeah, well, and it all goes into the whole lying thing, right? It serves their purposes to deflect blame off of themselves. And there are Republicans that do this too. There's a couple of them that are in the Wyoming Republican Party that kind of fit that bill. So anyway, I mean, it's just two different competing philosophies. And according to the Blaze, Republicans' only concession to the Democrats was to reverse the reduction in force notices issued during the shutdown and a commitment to refrain from implementing any more through January 30th when the continuing resolution expires. So but if you haven't listened to the podcast from yesterday, it's an interview with U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman, and she goes through, how she saw the government shutdown. And one of the fascinating points of it, I think, is she flat out said they haven't done anything since September 7th. So September, the entire month of October, and up until yesterday, they hadn't participated in a single vote on the floor of the House. They've just been, in their home in their own districts.
Other than some deserving people who actually like TSA folks that went out and did their job, I think that's wonderful.
I can't say that I would have done that. But that plays, I mean, that goes along with the argument I was just making, that the Democrats don't care that people were working for free. I mean, they are the folks that would get mad because their flight was canceled because of what they're doing. Why is it that you won't fly the plane even though you're not getting paid? I mean, it's truly bizarre. The Blaze goes on. Democratic Senator John Hickenlooper of Colorado told the Communist News Network that demonstrating the overwhelming reliance millions of Americans have on the federal government made the shutdown worth it. So wait a minute. You are from the party of dependence, that everything you do creates more dependence upon government. And Hickenlooper is claiming that, well, the government shutdown exposed how many people are truly reliant on government. Yeah, because you did that. I mean, it is the classic projection. Let's see here. I played this video for you yesterday, but this is all the Democrats backtracking from what they said about the government shutdown. Go ahead and play video number 1 for me.
What we're looking at right now is some 20 million people seeing a doubling in the health insurance premiums. In my state of Vermont, we're hearing that people are looking at a tripling or a quadrupling of the health insurance premiums.
Tonight, 8 Democrats voted with the Republicans to allow them to go forward on this continuing resolution. And to my mind, this was a very, very bad vote.
Well, the easiest off-ramp for the president is to use the $5 billion, which is available at the Department of Agriculture, that is specifically set aside to take care of this event that is about to unfold, which is to take care of those who are the hungriest in our nation. But this legislation does nothing concrete to lower costs or protect health care for millions of Americans from MAGA Republican attacks.
It's what we do to try and make sure that
this
they
is
can
Hickenlooper
stay
right
at work,
here.
keep our economy rolling, and keep a roof over their heads. You wonder why so many people end up homeless. Well, If we start cutting away all these supports, you're going to see homelessness rise up like we've never dreamed of. I mean, I voted no just because I'm so pissed off. I'm just frustrated.
Pissed off and frustrated. Yeah. All right. That's enough of that. Well, one of the provisions in the Senate bill was that senators or the representative whose phone communications were seized by Jack Smith, they could sue the federal government for $500,000 per violation. And that was there were several people I was reading yesterday that said, well, that might be a stumbling block for getting the House to sign off on the bill. But nope, turns out that it passed, and the continuing resolution was signed by President Trump late yesterday evening, or actually early yesterday evening.
I'll bet Cynthia Lumpus voted for it.
I bet Cynthia Lummis did vote for it. Of course, our senator was caught up in the whole Jack Smith dragnet. And still, that even went on really amazes me. It's just, and I say this all the time, but we have got to get back to being a nation of laws and not a nation of men. And, I mean, the Democrats, they're not the people that really care about having law that functions. Now, one more example of how the Democrats really just focus on their end goal is John Fetterman. Now, John Fetterman was one of the reasonable people during this whole government shutdown. And Ken, you and I have talked a lot about how we were wrong about him. And though he is a Democrat, he's not one of the wackos.
Yeah, why do you think I changed my attire?
Well, I guess you are a fan of John Fetterman. Well, anyway, he was on. I've got a couple of examples today of interviews that John Fetterman has given to left-wing media. I'm going to save one of them for a little bit later on in the program. But here's an example. He was on with Dana Bash, and he just flat says how the Democrats were treating those few members of their caucus that were going to side with the Democrats. So I've got it here on my machine, Ken. Let's go ahead and play it.
You said, quote, "I've drunk deeply of the venom of both the left and the right. As a connoisseur, I can confirm that the most poisonous, the bitterest, is from the far left." That is pretty remarkable to hear you say that as an elected Democrat. Why?
No. It's just been my personal experience on this thing. And when I asked my digital team, I said, we're on all the platforms. Really, what's kind of the harshest? What's kind of the most personal? And the answer was immediate. They said, "Oh, blue sky. It's blue sky." And the difference is, the right would say really rough things and names. Some names I won't repeat on TV, but the on the left, it was like they want me to die, or that we're cheering for your next stroke, or that's terrible that depression won. Why couldn't it depression won? And I hope your kids find you. They even have like the graphic.
Okay.
A gift.
So you get the point that the Democrats really don't care about who they hurt. They never really have. And so long as it serves their end goal, they will throw anybody they can to the wolves. It is, and I think that you're seeing this even in Wyoming. I've mentioned several times the protest that was down on the courthouse steps where there was a sign that said, "We're going to give them 1793 France." In other words, let's roll out the guillotines and stop lopping heads off. That was in Sheridan, Wyoming. We're not talking about, and I love this phrase. Well, we're Wyoming Democrats. We're different than Democrats in other places in the country. That is bullcrap. When you're parading around signs that have swastikas on them, when you're saying, "Hey, let's roll out the guillotines," which is what that sign means, there's no daylight between the Democrats here and the Democrats in Washington or the Democrats in Colorado. They are one and the same. And I've been warning for quite a while that the Democrat Party in Wyoming is on the rise, that they are gaining in registration, and they're becoming way more vocal. In some cases, way more vocal than the Republican Party. But that's what Republicans do. We get a win, and we tend to just kind of sit back and say, mission accomplished. We're good. We don't really have to do anything anymore. But the left doesn't view the world that way. They take a loss and, all right, so we got to take a step back, and then they continue fighting. They continue on their goal, and they never concede that they've lost in any way. They just try a different argument, and for them, it's one step back, two steps forward.
Maybe instead of a donkey and an elephant, we should use a rabbit and a turtle.
Yeah, it's the
Tortoise
turtle
and a hare,
that's the Democrats, for sure. But the truth is that the Democrats really have gone full-blown totalitarian. And it's not, and I'm not just talking about in New York or in Seattle. Later on in the program, I'm going to tell you about the socialist that's going to be the mayor of Seattle. But it's the Democrat Party as a whole. There's an interesting piece from The Blaze, and it's actually entitled, "The Democrats Have Gone Full-Blown Totalitarian." Listen to this, quote, "When George Patton served as a military governor of post-war Bavaria, he startled the press by comparing the Germans who voted for the Nazis to Americans who vote for Republicans or Democrats. 80 years later, that comparison, once deemed outrageous, makes way more sense now than any of us care to admit. Today's Democrat Party has become a profoundly destructive force. Its leaders incite violence, wink at assassination attempts, and encourage riots to block the Trump administration's efforts to deport illegal immigrants, including criminal offenders the Biden White House imported as future Democrat voters." This is written by Paul Gottfried, but he says, "As a European historian whose own family fled the Nazis, I recognize the pattern. The difference today is that the Democrats enjoy advantages the German totalitarians never had. In Virginia, Democrats just elected an inexperienced attorney general who once wished death upon a Republican leader and his children. J. Two Bullets Jones, a man with no serious professional experience and a long public record of hate-filled rhetoric, is now the state's top law enforcement officer. His victory didn't trouble Virginia's Democratic establishment. In fact, they defended him, celebrated him, and made it clear that they didn't see anything disqualifying about open derangement when it serves their cause. But the point isn't that the Democrat Party is identical to Hitler's regime. That's the vacuous argument that the people on the left make. And we've all heard it. Trump is Hitler. Trump is a Nazi. Trump is going to throw everybody in concentration camps. That drumbeat has continued for the last decade. But that's not the same thing as actually acting like it. And the point is that the Democrat Party isn't Hitler's regime. It's that its tactics, the deceit, the manipulation, the contempt for constitutional limits echo the methods that the Nazis used to dismantle the Weimar Republic from within. Now, what was the Weimar Republic? So pre-World War I, it was the Germans that controlled the German aristocracy controlled Germany. Post-World War I, it was the Weimar Republic. The aristocracy got thrown out, and they actually kind of had a republic for a while. But the West charged the entire German country with the entire debt of World War I. And so the only thing that the Weimar Republic could do was just print money. And they did. I mean, tremendous amounts of money, so much that it became worthless. There's this great story of a guy who goes into a grocery store, and he's got his money in a wheelbarrow because it literally took that much money. And by the way, in post-World War I Germany, you would get paid twice a day. You would get paid in the morning so that you could go buy your food for lunch, and then you would get paid at lunch so you could go buy your food for dinner. And the reason for that is the inflation was so high and prices were changing so rapidly that in the 4-hour span between breakfast and lunch, you may not be able to afford any food for dinner. So this guy goes into a grocery store, and he's got his wheelbarrow full of money. And he gets all of his things that he's going to buy, his food for dinner. And he looks around, and somebody had robbed him. But they didn't take his money. They took his food because the money was worthless. Just get on Google and type in Weimar Republic money, and you'll end up with all sorts of pictures of children playing with stacks of money as if they were blocks. Okay, so the Weimar Republic was in an absolute state of chaos. The economy was in the crapper, and there was nothing that they were going to do to get out of it. Well, the stage was set for another force to take over. I mean, the politics, the pump was primed, and it wouldn't have taken that much, and it didn't take that much for the Weimar Republic to be overthrown. And all that was needed was some unscrupulous people that would disregard the existing government in favor of their own, what they wanted to do. So enter the socialists, the National Socialist Party. And interestingly enough, Hitler, it was not his first attempt at election where he was successful. The first time he ended up losing, and they threw him in prison. It was his second time running for office that he actually got elected. But what allowed him to rise to power is the willingness of those sympathizers with him to disregard law and to disregard constitutional limits and to just do whatever they want. So Gottfried goes on that the difference today is that the Democrats enjoy advantages the German totalitarians never had. Even at the height of economic collapse, no more than 1/3 of German voters supported the National Socialists. In America, at least half the electorate, and possibly more, backs a party that celebrates political violence, erases gender distinctions, tears down monuments, degrades men, and promotes the mutilation of confused children in the name of so-called affirmation. Many of those Democrats' most reliable constituencies are college-educated women, black voters, and recent immigrants. They embrace the movement's nihilism without desperation that once drove the Germans to extremism. Their loyalty is ideological, not circumstantial, and that makes the threat all that more enduring. That's what I'm referring to when I say that the philosophy of the American left focuses on that the ends justify the means. That's an ideological position. It's not one that's rooted in the politics of the day or what's actually happening or the policies that are going through whatever legislature. It's an ideology that is above any sort of policies that they might put forward. And that's what allows them to attack their allies like John Fetterman. He's just a convenient example of, somebody who could provide reason to their party, who could actually sit down with the opposition and have an intelligent conversation. But because John Fetterman exists outside of that ideology, he said several times during the shutdown that he doesn't want to starve his constituents. And now he's being attacked for believing that very thing. And think about the enormous contradiction with that you have a guy who's actually representing his constituents and says that he doesn't want them to starve, and the other allies in his party are saying, no, we have to do away with that type of thinking. We can't have members of our party that actually look at the reality of what's on the ground, because the reality of what's on the ground is not the ideology that's in their head. The two are very, very different. And this, my friends, is exactly why the Democrats have gone full-blown left. And it's not that, and I've heard a lot of Democrats who are now registered Republicans say that it's not that I left the Democrat Party. I still believe in things like more government spending, larger government programs. He said it's that the Democrat Party left me, and they're way the heck over there. And in that they think that it's okay to lop body parts off of children and teach them things that absolutely aren't true, and then object when there are laws passed in the legislature that says, no, you actually have to preach the truth, and we're not going to allow a pervert into a women's restroom. Those things, which are common sense to most of us, are, again, outside of that ideology, being that the ends justify the means, that it doesn't matter what we have to do to regain power, that we're going to do that. And one of the reasons why you see these ridiculous policies come from the left is it's not to actually convince you that of that specific policy, that men ought to be allowed in women's restrooms. Okay, that's not their goal. Their goal is to make you question things that used to be fundamental truths. Those things that are like men are men and women are women, and men cannot become a man cannot become a woman any more than he can become a giraffe. But if you can question those things, if the left can convince you to question those things that we have all known since we were born, then what can't they make you question? What can't they make you believe? I mean, if you're going to say, well, I guess I can become a woman today, well, then you can be convinced of anything. And that is their goal.
Did God really say, thou shalt
Did he really
die?
say that?
You're going to die.
Yeah. 100 independent fact checkers say that he may not have said that.
By the way, do you save pennies?
I do have a big jar of pennies. You might want to start doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. You could save them for years and they'd still be worthless, but they're not going to be anymore.
Well, the copper in them is not worthless. Now, I'm not advocating that you melt
There's
them
no
down.
copper in recent pennies.
There's a
You got
trace
some
of them.
really old ones.
I do have a jar of really old pennies, but it's true that we're no longer going to mint pennies anymore. The last penny was minted, I think it was yesterday, or is it today?
Yeah, they finally decided that if it costs 4 cents to make a penny, it's probably not
Isn't
worth
that
it.
amazing?
Yeah.
That we're paying 4 cents for every 1 cent coin.
We're going to print money no matter what.
Exactly. And it's and I think the numbers, it's actually like 7 cents for every nickel. I mean, just absolutely absurd. The lengths that our government goes to waste money. We'll come back with a blast from the past, Kamala Harris, a reminder of what you could have had. Yeah, I know. The weather seems to be toying with us. 60 one day, 42 the next, and pretty soon, my friends, those 6s and 4s are going to turn into 3s and 2s. Though we all want to avoid it, that white stuff is coming, my friends, and you will be shoveling the walk in it. It's cold, it's unpleasant, and nobody likes to do it. But you could make it just a little bit more comfortable and prevent your feet from turning into a giant block of ice. In fact, you could keep them nice and warm and toasty, and your toes will never even know that they're outside. The rest of you may be frozen solid, but at least your feet won't be. To make all this happen, you just need a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listened to the president just a little bit too closely and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics. I'm David Iverson, gracing you with my presence, a gift from, allowing me to share my talents with you each and every day. Welcome back to the show, my friends. This is Cowboy State Politics Live on a Thursday, the last day of this week that we're going to have the program. Maybe we'll open up the phone lines at the top of the hour, since we're obviously not going to have open line Friday. And maybe I should have done that before, because I have to give you a blast from the past. It's my job to remind you of how good things are right now. As Rush Limbaugh always said, don't panic. There's no need to panic. If there is a need, I will tell you when that's appropriate. And now is not that time. Rather, I think that we should be very happy for the things that we have. And, according to some, the last election was the closest, most competitive, most challenged election in the history of elections. Except, of course, that the person who said that lost 312 electoral votes to her 226. So not exactly as close as she lets on. But now she's out hawking her book, 107 Days of Misery. I wonder if there was 107 pages, because I don't imagine that she could have written any much more than that. But she was on an interview the other day. I'll get to the name of the podcast here in a minute. But Storehouse and Friends was the name of the podcast. And she claimed that during the campaign, she was playing 3D chess, that she was outsmarting Trump's electoral plan from beginning to end. From the piece, and I quote, failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris claims to have outplayed the campaign strategy employed by President Donald Trump in the 2024 election. Harris made the comments. Remember what I said about convincing you of things that aren't true? Perfect example. Harris made the comments while a guest on the Storehouse and Friends podcast hosted by Tamira Chapman. The podcast was published Sunday, but the clip of her comments will remain in infamy. Now, first, let's just play me video number 2. This is Kamala Harris with Rachel Maddow on PMSNBC.
Right now we are dealing with, as I called him at my speech on the ellipse, a tyrant.
Okay, so just push pause for just a second.
We used to compare the strength of our democracy.
So I ripped this video off of Pat Gray's radio program. So that's who you hear in the background saying, right. See, so I don't have to do that. But anyway, that's the sound you're hearing in the background. All right, go ahead and hit play again.
To communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now, Donald Trump.
President to say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay.
It's hard to hear.
No,
listen to this one. This
is
great.
Yes,
you did say that.
He couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay.
What'd
My
you say?
point,
Is,
as I write in the book, is that I was clear that
this is so clear.
in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States, and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man,
what would happen?
with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a
I can't
real
handle any more of her. I've got two videos we've got to play, and it just I thought I could do it, but I can't. But the person that she was talking to is gay. It was Rachel Maddow. And so she's trying to explain away why she didn't choose Pete Buttigieg, and it just turns into this word salad that she became so famous for. But in her most recent interview, she said, quote, I understood the game that was being played, and I made the decision that I wasn't going to get played. And that evidently is what happened in the last presidential election. Quote, I was aware of my opponent's strategy, and I wasn't about to fall prey or fall into one of those traps. And part of his strategy and those around him was to try to take me off our game and our message. We weren't. It's so ridiculous that I can hardly say it. In fact, just play video number 3. She's playing 3D chess. She's so much smarter than Trump.
I was aware of my opponent's strategy, and I wasn't about to fall prey.
No.
Or fall into those traps.
Yeah. I avoided all
and
of them.
Part of his strategy and those around him was to try and take me off our game and message.
Yeah.
And I wasn't about to be distracted by those flames that he was trying to throw to get me away from my highest priority, which is talking to people about the economy and their well-being in terms of their
Talked about
financial
not knowing what to do with your hands.
And
what do I do with my hands?
I understood the game that was being played, and I made a decision that I wasn't going to get played.
I wasn't going to get played.
And
chess, not checkers. Got it.
chess, not checkers. Yeah, three-dimensional chess.
Three-dimensional chess. Okay, that's enough of that. I think we can all agree that Kamala Harris couldn't couldn't make it all the way through a game of chess, much less three-dimensional chess.
She couldn't identify all the playing pieces.
No. But it was the closest election in American history, Ken. Closer than any other. I mean, nobody was that close to winning.
You pick up a copy of that book if you dare and read one paragraph and you'll know for certain she couldn't have written it.
There's no way. There's no way.
Because can you imagine if she had actually written it herself?
Now, that is a great comparison to the one that Karine Jean-Pierre wrote. Go look up some of the reviews of that book. I mean, they are absolutely entertaining. This is the worst book in the history of any sort of literature. I mean, and the interviews are just fascinating. But, it's an amazing thing about the time we live in that anybody can get, some media attention. You just have to find a podcast that you're going to go on. And, it's Joe Rogan is not calling Kamala Harris anymore, unless, of course, he just needs a little comic relief for the day. But it's pretty common for politicians, successful and unsuccessful ones, to write a book afterwards. But the difference here is that before all these podcasts, and I would say before the last, 2 or 3 years, you would have to buy the book to find out how stupid these people are. But at least you would get some book revenue off of it before people realized that the game was up. Now you get to go on these podcasts and hawk your book and convince people that you really are the moron that we all thought you were, and so you're actually hurting yourself in getting people not to buy your book. It's absolutely crazy. All right, moving on. ICE makes a pitch for New York City cops after Mamdani promises a radical overhaul. We all knew this was going to happen. I've been telling you all week long that that's an interesting Freudian slip. Mamdani's chief of staff is the guy that came up with the whole idea of replacing cops with social workers. I'm sure that's going to work out fantastic. One of the results that's come out of that is that a bunch of cops are resigning from working in New York City, which kind of makes us question. See, in January, the lovely Christine and I are supposed to take a trip to New York. We're reconsidering that right now because I can't bring a gun with me.
Just a little aside, it's not just the cops in New York that are freaking out, but look at all of the musical artists and others who are canceling all of their concerts.
I wonder why.
I'm not going to go play for commies.
Well, they all are, and see, that is how vapid our media establishment is. All these people were campaigning for Kamala Harris because they were being paid. That's why Kamala's campaign cost over $1 billion, or was it $2 billion? Anyway, billions of dollars. Because they were all making money off of it. Well, now that they're realizing what's going to happen, that most of their income is going to be paid to Comrade Mamdani, they're all ready to get the heck out of Dodge because they're realizing the flaw in their reasoning. But one of the big ones is going to be police in New York. Let's see here. I think this one is also from The Blaze. A poll conducted ahead of the New York City mayoral election found that 9% of residents would definitely leave the city, and another 25% would consider relocating if Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani proved victorious on November 4th. It is yet to be seen whether New York City will ultimately hemorrhage millions of residents in the coming months. It appears, however, that Mamdani's rise to power has already prompted departures at the New York Police Department. Quote, "How do you work for somebody who considers you a racist and anti-queer and wants to defund the police?" Citing sources familiar with the situation and the police pension fund data, the New York Post indicated that a surge of police officers quit in the weeks leading up to the mayoral election, when Mamdani was a clear favorite to win. In October, the New York Police Department, listen to this. These numbers are huge. The New York Police Department reportedly saw a 35% spike in police of all ranks leaving the force. 35%. Now, I'm assuming that by spike they mean over and above what they would normally see, police retiring or whatever. But that's a huge number. whereas 181 left the force in October. This year, 245 officers left during the same stretch. So, yeah, it's a 35% increase over was last year. The Detectives Endowment Association president Scott Monroe told the Post, quote, morale is down because everyone is concerned about the policies Mamdani wants to put in place. You have a person who's supposed to be running the city that does not believe in law enforcement. What's coming out of his mouth is, we're in trouble. Mamdani, who takes office January 1st, has made no secret in recent years of his antipathy towards the New York Police Department. The mayor-elect suggested, for instance, in a June 28, 2020 tweet that, quote, the New York Police Department is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. Wow. And now he is the mayor of New York. Well, there are a bunch of police departments and now ICE is suggesting that maybe you should take another position with somebody who actually values your profession. Let's see here. Where is it? Well, I can't see it. Anyway, ICE is offering positions to those police officers that are leaving. So the Houston Police Officers Union, for instance, released a flyer earlier this month telling New York cops, quote, disgusted with the election of Zohran Mamdani, come work for us. The Houston Police Department is hiring and offered competitive pay with a 36.5% pay raise just approved over 5 years. So I don't know what a New York City police officer makes, but a 36% raise, that's huge.
Wasn't it the Laramie County Sheriff that was putting billboards up?
Yeah.
Recruiting officers out of Colorado.
A brilliant strategy.
Yep.
You know, and the only thing is in Wyoming, I mean, we really don't, we don't have any towns that are of any size, really. So, you know, it's not like we could say, hey, come work here in Wyoming. Though, you know, I'm sure state troopers or whatever.
Hey, if you're working in Denver where you can't even walk down to the 16th Street Mall anymore with all the stuff.
Isn't that depressing?
Yeah. And somebody gives you a chance to go work in Grable.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Well, move your family there.
Some people don't want to live in a little place, but man, I would jump at that chance.
Well, the last time I was on the 16th Street Mall, and when I was going to college at Regis, that was our hangout place. We'd go find a coffee shop and just sit there for a couple hours, watching people, and it was awesome, man. They had the heated walkways. You could go shopping outside in the middle of winter and not get cold. It was awesome.
Yeah, Lodo, we would go down and watch a game at Coors Field and then go walk around, and there are a number of really cool pubs, or used to be, in the area, and you didn't feel at all unsafe walking from one to the other.
Interesting you should put it that way, Agent 29, because now you probably won't feel anything because you'll have a contact high walking through there. Everywhere, it wasn't this past summer, but previous summer, Christine and I went down to watch my Texas Rangers unfortunately get beat by the Rockies. I don't even want to talk about that game. But anyway, I know. It was they got swept that series by the Rockies. Anyway, after the game, we went and walked around, and everywhere you went, it just smelled weed everywhere. And I'm kind of joking a little bit about the contact high, but 16th Street, it is nothing compared to what it is now. Or what it was. Anyway, so cops are escaping New York City, and I don't blame them. I don't know why you live in that hellhole anyway, but they're getting the heck out of Dodge. Escape from New York. You know, I've never seen that movie. Have you seen that movie, Agent 29?
I have. I haven't given you the plot, but I was just thinking of...
I bet it involves getting the heck out of New York City.
Adam 12, I think it was. There was a rash in the late 60s of cop movies that was the big thing. And right after the Twin Towers, FD New York and the New York Police Department, they were terrific heroes. Now they have to cover up to protect and serve on their cars. What is it they're supposed to put on there?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm the biggest threat.
Well, I mean, according to Mamdani, that's probably what's going to happen. So anyway, bad news in New York. Get the heck out of there while you still can. And, I'm sure you won't be able to get a hold of Kurt Russell in an emergency. From the cow pie, Gail Simmons, election bill solutions without problems.
Isn't there time for a commercial?
You're not getting out of this one. All right. So Gail has her most recent column in the Cow Pie. First, I would like to know whose bright idea it was at the Cow Pie to hire her. Why would you want to publish that drivel on anything that you own? I unless, of course, you're just a radical leftist and you want to help the Democrats win. I mean, that's probably the only reason
Is a
there.
DEI hire.
Well, that's true because she certainly doesn't have the qualifications that she claims. Anyway, from her opinion piece, quote, 8 election bills have been approved by the Joint Corporations Committee for Wyoming's 2026 budget session. They'll need 2/3 vote to be introduced, all of them being championed by Secretary of State Chuck Gray. And the supporters get indignant when these are called voter suppression, because it's not voter suppression. Anyway, in the Navy, we used to say, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Well, except when you're talking about Gail Simmons, because if it smells like a donkey and looks like a donkey and votes like a donkey, it's probably a jackass Gail Simmons and a Democrat. Here's what she says, quote, let's be clear about something. I would love to, Gail. Quote, if a thorough review of Wyoming's elections laws and processes identified real risks, I'd be first in line to champion targeted evidence-based fixes. That's how you build trust with surgical precision, not a shotgun blast. But that's not what's happening here. The experts on Wyoming's elections are county clerks and their staffs, like the Weston County clerk, Gail. The one that completely hosed the entire election for not only Representative Chip Nyman, but for the school board and for their county commissioners. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that county clerk who, according to you, is the expert on Wyoming elections, has been charged with violating a subpoena, and she's probably going to get charged with screwing up the election, too.
I ran the bill last year that was basically the poll watchers' Bill of Rights, and by far the most vicious resistance against it was the County Clerks Association.
Absolutely.
Somebody was telling me just the other day that, last time they went to go be a poll watcher, they arrived about 10 minutes early and they were met at the door and said, you cannot come in here.
Yes. Yep, exactly right.
Why?
Because they don't want transparency.
Yeah, and that's my fact. So she's talking about how do if there's a problem that shows up. Well, if you're not looking for the problem, it's not going to show up.
Well, listen to this quote. Here's what Wyoming's data actually tells us. Oh, please, Gail, enlighten me with your brilliance. The Heritage Foundation, often cited by restriction advocates, lists 3 fraud cases, including 5 people in Wyoming over the past 25 years. 3 people, 5 cases, quarter century. So what are we fixing? Just because something is not prosecuted does not mean that it is not happening. This is a common logical fallacy that Gail uses over and over and over. Well, there's only been 5 cases, so obviously there's not a problem.
We have a Bermuda Triangle in Wyoming.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
we do.
And it's at the Capitol, and it has the Attorney General sign on the door. And how many cases have been dropped on that desk?
I know of 16
Never
of them
seen again.
that are, it was Cowboy State Politics that broke the news that there were 16 election-related complaints that the Secretary of State decided were worth pursuing. Now, admittedly, some of them are more serious than others.
Yeah.
Some of them are just complaints.
I went in there, gave him one of my business cards, because nobody was around in the office when I went in there. Said, I would like some feedback on a couple of these cases.
Did you get a return phone call?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
What the cool part is I get to go back to Cheyenne soon, every month for 4 months. And we'll be having some conversations. We'll see what comes of that.
So the truth is that there are a multiplicity of cases involving the election that are sitting on the desk of the Wyoming Attorney General that they have done nothing with. Now, Gail, just because those aren't prosecuted or haven't been prosecuted, that doesn't mean that they don't exist. And one of them, Gail, happened in your own county. Cyrus Western and I almost had a major problem there. So Cyrus Western and Bill Novotny. violated Wyoming election law in multiple ways. And this was, it wasn't the past election, it was the election before. And they tried to cover it up. There was a full-blown investigation by Sheridan County Sheriff's Deputy Boot Hill. It's fascinating reading, by the way. It's pretty entertaining. You can find it on the Cowboy State Politics website. But anyway, it was investigated. There were charges that could have been leveled. The Sheridan County prosecutor, Diana Bennett, didn't do anything with it. So she referred it down to the Attorney General, who slipped it neatly into their black box or their Bermuda Triangle and never to be heard from again. So, Gail, just because things aren't prosecuted, that doesn't mean that it's not happening. In other words, if you put your blindfold on, like you obviously wear all of the time, just because you don't see something doesn't mean that it's not happening.
And I really don't have to say this because we've covered it several times before. We won't belabor the point, I hope. But if there's nothing to hide, be transparent.
Yeah.
Let them in. Let them see everything they want to see. And you will prove once and for all that there's nothing to see here. There's not a problem. And maybe some people will shut up.
Yeah, why don't you just shut us up, Gail? Why don't you advocate for opening up all of this and letting people see that there is no problem in the county clerk's office? But you won't do that because you know that you're lying about it. Let's go to the next piece. Absentee restrictions. I love this one. Inconvenience masquerading as security. Quote, 2 bills eliminate ballot drop boxes statewide and prohibit anyone but immediate family from returning your absentee ballot. No more asking a neighbor, no volunteer help, no campaign worker taking ballots to the clerk. Ranch families who live 40 miles out of town, students without cars, elderly voters who relied on a church group for help. They will all lose convenience. The justification? Fear that something might happen, not evidence that something did. We're fixing a problem we don't have by making it harder for citizens to vote. That's not integrity. That's barriers. Hey, Gail, do you know which constituency votes the most out of every other one of them in Wyoming? Do you know which constituency that is? It's senior citizens. If you want to get elected in Wyoming, you have to make a habit of going to the Senior Citizen Center. You have to reach out to those because that's the constituency that come hell or high water, they will go and vote. This whole thing about living 40 miles out of town and these poor elderly people, that is a canard big enough, as big as your head, Gail. It is absolutely stupid that you even make this argument. This is the classic one. Oh, if you can't have somebody collect a whole bunch of ballots and then maybe exchange them for some that you had ordered off of eBay, that's obviously an election restriction. It's absolutely stupid. And so, too, is the whole early voting thing. Thank God the legislature reduced the amount of early voting in the last legislative session. It's still far too long. There's no reason why you can't call the clerk's office or go in and ask for an absentee ballot if you're going to be late. There is no reason why we have early voting. If you're going to be out of town during the election, get an absentee ballot. This is one of the only duties you have in the Constitution is and we refer to it as a right to vote. I would argue that it is a duty to vote. It's the one time that you actually get a say in your government. And we treat it like it's some sort of inconvenience for you to tromp down to the polling place and cast your vote. I think that we should just make Election Day a national holiday. No work, everybody gets paid, go vote. And by the way, you already get paid to go vote. I can't remember what the statute said. It's either 1 hour or 2 hours that your employer has to pay, or maybe it's 3. I don't know. But your employer pays you to go vote. So all of this stuff about inconveniencing voters is a bunch of bull crap.
You
Gail,
just inconvenience the employers, though. You got to pay somebody, so you're taking money out of your pocket.
Well, yeah.
I don't agree with that either. I don't think you should be paid to go vote, but that's just me.
Well, it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other, right? So the point is that you cannot make the argument that you're losing money by going to vote, right? Your employer has to pay you to go vote, and it's not onerous. It's an hour or two, but that's your one duty. So, in other words, another example. And this one, your employer doesn't have to pay you for, but you can't lose your job by going to jury duty. It's the same thing. Gail goes on. Let's be clear about something. Oh, I really wish you would, Gail. Like, I don't know, your credentials. If a thorough review of Wyoming's election laws and processes identified real risks, I'd be first in line to champion targeted, evidence-based fixes. But that's not what's happening here. The experts on Wyoming's elections are county clerks. I read that part to you. They're not the ones asking for these changes. Of course they're not, because they're the ones that are screwing up elections. The Secretary of State is. The bills rest on assumptions, speculation, and conspiracy theories borrowed from out-of-state actors, not Wyoming data. Here's what Wyoming's data actually tells us. There's no problem here, is what I take from it. Let's see here. Hand counting. Now, this one, I am not a fan of hand counting every election. I know that there are people that think that that's a good thing to do. Okay, you can make the argument that, hey, we had hand counting before we had all these, tabulation machines. All right, well, how did you know those were fair? I don't know. It's our election system, and I really don't see the necessity in hand counting every election. Plus, I think it would take way too long. All right, here's what Gail Simmons says. 2 more bills mandate random hand count audits. Now, what's the problem with an audit? We audit everything else. If you're some sort of obscure special district and you get, I think it's above $100,000 in taxpayer money, you have to perform an audit. We don't see a problem with that. We don't see a problem with auditing your county commission or the city council. Businesses perform audits. We all think that most of us think those are a good thing. Why not elections?
Audits prove that you did what you said you were going to do.
That's the whole thing, right? The point of an audit is to point out holes in your financial processes. That's the point. So why wouldn't we want to perform targeted audits after an election? But Gail doesn't want you to do that because she says hand counting means days of delays, not hours. Well, to hand count the elections in Weston County after Becky Hadlock, the Weston County clerk, screwed them all up, it only took a couple of hours to finish hand counting those races, and they were able to do it no problem. So, this is another one. A photo ID. I love this one. Here's what she says. Another bill involves student IDs, Medicare cards, Medicaid cards from the acceptable voter ID list. Only photo IDs will work. These exceptions are already scheduled for sunset in 2029. No one has data on how many voters could be affected. In-person voter impersonation, the actual scope of that problem nationally, 31 allegations out of 1 billion. Liars use statistics, and statistics lie, just like Gail Simmons does. She goes on and on and on in this piece, but Gail Simmons is she is the person that the left trots out when there is any election-related bill in front of the legislature. And if you just question her on whatever number she's throwing out, you'll find out that she probably doesn't have the study in her hand, and she probably just made up the numbers. Or she relies on faulty, old, flawed statistics, just like her credentials. Oh, I can't wait to tell you about that one. Man, back in a minute. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Hunting season. Right about now, you're off with all of your pals, stalking the big gigantic elk or buck mule deer that you've been thinking about all summer long. And your lovely wife is at home, probably enjoying her time without you. But soon, my friend, all of that is going to come to a screeching halt. And I want you to think about just one little thing. She's able to park her car inside the garage because all of your hunting crap is with you right now. Now, if you'd like the marital bliss to continue,
I suggest you make a call to Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They can build you a garage or a barn or any other type of metal structure for you to store all of your toys in so that your wife can continue parking inside the garage. And you can avoid sleeping on the couch for the next month or two. Call Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Get them to build you a metal building before it's too late. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live. I'm David Iverson, your illustrious host, documented to be almost always right 99% of the time. A record that I'm extraordinarily proud of.
That's okay, because when you're wrong, I'm right.
Well,
so one of us has got them covered.
It's so rare that you're right, though, that welcome. All right. Welcome back to the program. Now, the business that I'm in is all I do is sit here and talk to you. And I would say that it helps if you have a little bit of training, that you really know, what broadcasting is. Though, I mean, there are a lot of people that went to broadcasting school, journalism school, that don't know their head from a hole in the ground. But at least you need to have some sort of skill in what you're doing. I mean, you don't want to be like Alec Baldwin and try your own radio show that nobody ever listens to. However, we have kind of slipped into a spot where I have no idea why some of these people are even popular. Now, you got people like Joe Rogan. I'm not a particular fan of him, but he has built an incredible empire. And it is because his style resonates with people, a lot of people. I mean, his audience is well over 3 million downloads every single episode. So truly incredible. I wish I had that. But there are other people on the left that I can't for the life of me figure out how they are still in business. Let me give you an example. Charlemagne the God. I find his name offensive. And I also find his program offensive. Go ahead and play video number 4 for me, Ken. Here he is.
Jasmine Crockett is actually what the Democrats should be leaning into. Because Crockett, she is a phenomenal messenger. And some people got it. Like some people just have a different anointing on them. You don't know why certain people cause folks to gravitate towards them.
Notice the name of his book, Get Honest or Die Lying. So he says that Jasmine Crockett is the messenger of the left. Now, this is also Charlemagne. Play video number 5 for me, Ken.
Shut the F up, Ever. Okay? Damn. There was no opportunity missed. The man just won. All right. He just won. After you won, yes, you're going to celebrate. Yes, you're going to talk loud.
Look
what do you
mean?
Jacket. He wasn't warm enough. He took a victory lap. And he deserved to take a victory lap because he won. I just don't understand how in the era of Trump, we still telling people how to talk.
Yeah.
The language of politics is dead. And Donald Trump killed it.
Yeah.
And when you can really talk that talk.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole point. All right, it's enough of him. So first, did you notice his jacket, like the little insignia on his coat, was in the shape of Africa, but it was the socialist fist. So I found that interesting. But this is, and pay attention to his language, right? He's saying, it's pretty offensive anyway. So clearly not an authority on messaging, clearly not an authority on delivering a solid rhetorical style.
Not nearly as skilled as Jasmine.
Not nearly as skilled as Jasmine Crockett. Play video number 6 for me.
It is this fear that the people within the party, within the primary system, will have about voting for a woman, because every time we voted for a woman, we've lost so far. And I think that that's a natural fear, because we just want to win. So there's a lot of people that are like, you know what? Like, let's go find the safest white boy we can find. I mean, I'm just saying.
Those are the callers that we're hearing. We're hearing people.
No, for real.
A white man's got a
No,
We're getting those callers.
For real.
Yeah, okay, that's enough of that. So not only do we have a guy that is an idiot on the Breakfast Club, he's saying that the person you just watched ought to be the messenger for the Democrat Party. Oh, my God.
I actually wholeheartedly agree.
I absolutely agree. And that was going to be my very next comment, Agent 29, that I want her to be the messenger of the Democrat Party. But this is where we're at. I mean, when I was doing show prep this morning, I really got the feeling that I am living in Idiocracy. Have you ever watched that movie? It's go find it on Amazon. And it's okay, so it's a comedy spoof, but there are so many things in there that we're actually doing. And listening to Jasmine Crockett, I think that's where we're at.
Okay, you took a minute to throw a movie. I'm going to pay. There's another one there, a little aside. This is free. Peter Sellers, Being There.
Being There. I've not watched that one.
He plays Chauncey Gardner, and Chauncey is a moron.
Okay.
He is hired as the gardener for somebody, and he steps out into the street and gets hit by some governor's vehicle or something like that. Anyway, he ends up being an advisor to the president, and he says these mysterious things like, in the springtime, things will grow.
And everybody thinks that he's absolutely brilliant. And doesn't he get elected to Congress or
they
something?
They think he's playing 3D chess.
That's who's been advising Kamala Harris's campaign. So my point is, my friends, is why are we listening to these people? Now, you might be asking yourself, why am I listening to David on Cowboy State Politics? Well, there's a lot of people on the Wyoming left that ask that very same question. But, you know, just be a little bit critical of the programs you're listening to. I mean, I realize that, you know, there's some appeal to the Howard, you know, the Howard Stern style of programming. But he's kind of gone off to the wayside. And why is that? Because the period of shock jock radio shows is over. Because there's nothing more shocking that can happen. I mean, you have Charlemagne saying, you know, shut the F up. And he's talking. Yeah, and I mean, that is the entirety of his broadcasting. I mean, it's profanity laced. How often do you hear swear words on TV now? I mean, I remember when I was growing up, like if you heard the word damn, that was pretty I mean, that was pretty edgy. And you never heard somebody drop the F word. But now that's pretty commonplace.
When I was growing up, if a married couple on TV went upstairs, that was all they would show.
Yeah, that was it.
And then when they did, they were in separate beds. I always wondered about that.
Yeah, well, and it's, I mean, it's just, I think it's a commentary on where we're at as a culture. That, you know, I mean, we've moved past the point of propriety into the more shocking and the more profane your messaging is, the more we seem to think the more effective it is. But it's not. What it is all clickbait, and so you'll see shorts, videos on YouTube, and with the headline of something that is just so shocking. And as people, we want to think, oh man, that's pretty crazy. I want to see what that is and see what they said. But it doesn't really have anything to do with the analysis or the reasoning behind it. It's whatever's more shocking. Now, let me give you an example of what I consider, you know, pretty good journalism. We've got a video of Rush, and it's just him opening the program. But just take a listen to this, and let's compare him to Charlemagne the God.
And we are back. Great to have you with us, ladies and gentlemen. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. Once again, serving humanity simply by being here. Simply by showing up, a thrill and a delight to be with you. as it always is. The telephone number is 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushmo at eibnet.com. The Associated Press is reporting, ladies and gentlemen,
nice microphone,
that David Axelrod just told a group of Democrat politicians in New Hampshire that Obama's reelection will be a titanic struggle. And, of course, we here are hoping it meets the same fate as the Titanic. But in order to guarantee that, what do we need? We need to make sure the GOP puts up the right iceberg. I mean, if they're going to, what an optic to compare the Obama campaign to a Titanic struggle. Now, it's with a small T on Titanic, but I mean, you say the word Titanic, what do you think? You think giant ocean liner hitting an iceberg and Leonardo DiCaprio and what's her name, Kate Winslet, dying. Well, we don't want to go that far. Well, no, Rachel, for most people, that's what Titanic is. Since for most people, life is a movie, that's what it is. Of course, Leo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet have nothing to do with this, but they're admitting it's going to be a Titanic struggle. The latest Gallup poll says that 6 in 10 Americans don't expect the economy to improve. The other 4 all have government jobs.
Exactly right. But the point I'm making here is that you never heard Rush blurt out, expletives. I mean, he never dropped the F-bomb. Rarely did I ever hear him swear in any way. And yet Rush Limbaugh had an audience of about 30 million people. Holy crap. So we've moved from that sort of broadcasting to one that is just whatever is more shocking. And you wonder why we get people elected to office who are complete morons, like Jasmine Crockett. Now, I'll give it to her. She has been able to fashion a persona for herself that evidently works with her constituency. But the truth is that Jasmine Crockett didn't grow up in the ghetto. She went to the most prestigious prep school in all of Missouri. And the most expensive one. And I can't remember the college she went to, but it was also a really, really exclusive college. Very much a white-collar upbringing. And yet the persona that she's created for herself is one of being one of these ghetto, like her language is very much uneducated, or she tries to make it that. And so it's all a show for her, but evidently it works. Well, I went ahead and opened up the phone lines. If you want to weigh in on whatever we've talked about today, Gail Simmons, Jasmine Crockett, Charlemagne the God, whatever, Kamala Harris, 3D Chess, go ahead and give me a call. The phone number is 307-374-8989, 307-374-8989. If there's something on your mind that you want to talk about, go ahead and hit me up. We're not going to have Open Line Friday tomorrow, so I figured why not give you the chance to call in today. So we're going to have a socialist on either end of the country. Aren't you excited? I mean, I think it's going to be a disaster, but I am kind of excited to see how big of a disaster it's actually going to be. From Fox News, leftward lurch, second socialist leader ready to rule another iconic American city. Quote, while national media obsess over New York City's lurch toward socialism under its rising star Zoran Mamdani, go ahead and play a couple sound bites for me from Mr. Mamdani if you can, Ken.
Prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists.
Yes,
and we have to ensure that
somebody heard
we
that
are
call.
unapologetic about our socialism.
We have to be unapologetic about our socialism. Well, so is Katie Wilson in Seattle. She's going to be the mayor of Seattle. Quote, while national media obsess over New York City's lurch toward socialism under its rising star, few have noticed that Seattle is preparing its own ideological twin. What Mamdani is doing in Queens, progressive Katie Wilson is poised to replicate in the Pacific Northwest.
So we get communism in stereo.
Yes, we do. And it's going to be amazing to watch the tumble. And, okay, so Seattle has not exactly been making any gains. I mean, it was a couple of years ago where progressives took over a section of the city and renamed it CHOP. I mean, that's, I'm not really that big a fan of Tucker Carlson anymore. But when he was doing segments on the city of CHOP, it was absolutely hysterical. He called them the Chopistanis. Well, Wilson is an activist with almost no executive experience, but deep roots and no experience in the job market either, which is why she's a socialist. But deep roots in Seattle's far left circles. Leads incumbent mayor Bruce Harrell in new polling. In fact, I think this morning they said that they've called the election for her pretty much, that she's ahead with, last night it was 91 votes and her lead keeps growing. Her rise mirrors the political realignment sweeping New York, a movement powered by younger, fiercely ideological activists who view capitalism as the root of all injustice and government as the cure. Of course they view it that way. Go ahead and play for me cut number 7. Socialists in, it's not Sleepless in Seattle anymore, it's Socialists in Seattle.
So I am super excited to talk to our next guest this morning. Katie Wilson is the co-founder and executive director of the Transit.
I'm super excited to talk to this next person. That is that's what qualifies as journalism and good broadcasting practices. Oh my God, I'm super excited.
Some people's qualifications are just tracts of land.
large tracts of land. Go ahead and hit play.
Writers Union. She is also the progressive candidate for mayor in the city of Seattle, locked in an extraordinarily close race with the current mayor, Bruce Harrell, and she joins us now. Welcome, Katie. So first question for you, just give us a little bit of a sense of the dynamics of this race, what ballots still remain, and whether your expectation is that you will be the next mayor of the city of Seattle.
Yeah, so the way that we do elections here in Washington State is that it's all by mail. So everyone mails in their ballots. We also have ballot drop boxes around the city. And there's a very consistent pattern that more progressive voters, younger voters, tend to vote late. And so what you'll see is that the election night results, there's actually a large shift between election night and the final results toward the more progressive or left-leaning candidate. So on election night, I was at 46%. Now I've pulled ahead by 91 votes, as you said, and there's another about 10,000 ballots out there still to be counted, mostly from election day, mostly skewing younger. So we're really hopeful that that margin will widen. It's possible that there will be a recount because the margin will still be very small, but we're feeling really good about
this race
at this point.
Probably paying
incredible,
the people
absolutely
doing the
incredible. So talk to us just a little bit for people who have not been following this race closely. As I confess, I actually wasn't until the last couple of weeks before the election. Tell people about the incumbent mayor, Bruce Harrell, your issues with his leadership, and then the platform that you were running on as a contrast.
Yeah, sure thing. So, I mean, my background, I'm a community organizer, a coalition builder. And so for the past 14 years, I've been leading this organization that I co-founded back in 2011 called the Transit Writers Union. And, we basically fight on economic justice issues. So I've led campaigns to raise the minimum wage to the highest in the country in several cities around King County. Fought for stronger renter protections in Seattle and other cities around King County, fought for progressive taxation. So we have a landmark tax on wealthy corporations in Seattle called the Jumpstart tax that I played a big role in designing and passing. And then, of course, public transit, right, as the name of the organization suggests, fighting for better public transit. And we've won a bunch of affordable and free.
That's enough of this, socialist. We get the idea. Economic justice, whatever the heck that is. But you can see that the policies that she's suggesting pretty much mirror what you're hearing, what we heard from Mom Donnie during the campaign. Now, what we're hearing from Mom Donnie now is totally different than what he was saying, before the election. But it's two socialists on either end of the country, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen, because socialism always fails. And, you can't, sure, it sounds good when you're sitting in a university building, free buses, rent freezes. I wonder what's going to happen to those rental properties when landlords don't have enough money to keep up on the maintenance, economic justice, tax the rich. Seattle's going to end up, and And by the way, I used to think that Seattle was one of the really pretty cities in America, but over years of Democrat rule, progressive rule, I mean, it is, well, it's another tale like San Francisco. San Francisco used to be a really pretty town too. Not so much anymore, unless of course the Chinese are showing up. Then they can clean the whole place up in about a day. But you've got two socialists, either end of the country. Let's hear back to that Fox News piece for just a second. A recent DHM research poll shows Seattle voters are ready to hand City Hall to a slate of socialists and progressives. Wilson leading the incumbent mayor, while left-wing candidates are favored to win both open city council seats and the city attorney's race. The only citywide position still held by a Republican. It's an echo of the Mamdani coalition in New York, where Democratic Socialists of America candidates have seized power from the traditional Democrats who once redefined the city's pragmatism. So it really is the Democratic Socialists of America that are instrumental in getting both Mamdani and Katie Wilson elected. And, again, I think it's pretty obvious, but maybe Joe McCarthy was right that there are communists that have been operating in our government, and I think there always have been. The difference being now is that all the masks are off, that it is no more taboo to say that, hey, I'm a socialist. I think that socialism is cool. And a lot of this, as we talked about yesterday on the show, a lot of this is fueled by the failure of our education system. That, we have teachers and professors that are teaching students that socialism is cool and why shouldn't you tax the rich? They have more money than anybody and we should just take it from them. It is a generation of entitlement that I am entitled to whatever you worked for just by virtue of existence. If you don't, those who don't work for a living will die. Mr. Preacher, what's the scripture?
He who will not work, neither let him eat.
There you go. And apparently people are going to eat at least for a little bit in New York City and Seattle until all the people that pay the bills have moved.
Yeah, can you imagine when that place begins to really implode and collapse?
Ooh, man.
Yeah.
And the big question is, how long is it going to take? I mean, we saw how quickly Trump was able to turn around crime in Washington, D.C. It didn't take that long, maybe a couple of weeks. So the reverse is got to be true, that once you remove all the police out of the equation, replace them with social workers, put in all these rent controls.
Look what happened at Katrina. How long did that take?
Yeah, it didn't take long at all.
Everybody was busy occupied with other things, and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be fascinating. We ought to put get a timer to put up in the corner. How long until these cities implode?
So we're gonna announce the Cowboy State Politics Pool. You can buy a square.
Yeah. How long until Seattle and New York City destroy themselves? Well, they are not alone. There's also one of these folks that's running in Tennessee. And this woman is, she's at least entertaining. From the Federalist, radicals rush to back the AOC of Tennessee in a special congressional election. And like I said, this woman is fascinating. Here's a picture of her. Go ahead and throw my screen up there, Ken. All right, here she is. This is Afton, and I don't know how to pronounce it. Bean, something like that. But there she is. I'm sure she too has large tracts of land. But she is a Nashville leftist, and she's up again against Republican Matt Van Epst for Tennessee's 7th Congressional District early next month. So let's see here. Last week's late margin election wins in deep blue states bolstered the Democrat Party's battered confidence heading into the 2026 midterms. In fact, the Dems sound downright cocky about it. And I've talked about this before on the program. They're excited about Democrats winning in Democrat districts. Let's be honest. New York City is not exactly a Republican stronghold, nor is New Jersey, nor is Virginia, at least Northern Virginia anyway. So it shouldn't have surprised anybody that Democratic candidates won in those elections. Quote, Ken Martin, Democrat National Committee chairman, says, quote, I said when I ran for this job, when you organize everywhere, you can win anywhere. And we just fundamentally believe that, Martin told the NBC News last week as he prepared to campaign for leftist Afton Ben in one of Red Tennessee's most conservative congressional districts. Perhaps still drunk on the champagne bubbles of last Tuesday's sweeping statewide victories, the Democrats and Martin told the NBC News he believes Ben has an excellent shot to win. So let me show you some more pictures of Afton Ben. Here is one of her. Check this out. She's dressed in a coffin. And here she is as Marie Antoinette. Now, this one's interesting because she has a different campaign style than we're used to. She is an activist, and as we all know, activists get a little loud sometimes. And let's see here. Go ahead and play cut number 8. Here we are. Afton Ben.
Here today on behalf of communities that you have silenced today in this legislative session. You have been violent to our various communities this entire legislative session. You have stopped any accountability. You deserve to be taken out. You have been violent and extreme towards people of color, towards women, towards minorities.
There she is, getting dragged away. And it continues from there. So that's her style of campaigning. But she also has another way of campaigning, and that is to impersonate the person that she's running against, a gal named Diane Black. And the truth is, Diane Black is a very, very, very rich person worth over $100 million. But in another video, well, I'll just play it for you, and you can tell me what you think. Play video number 9.
Oh my goodness, what is all this? They have school outside on the ground. They educate, they're on the ground. Oh, what is this? What is this music? Oh my goodness. Is this for me?
All right, that's enough of that. I can't handle any more of it. But that's one of her campaign videos. So she's comparing her competition to Marie Antoinette. And later on in the video, she shows a picture of Diane Black's mansion, and it is gigantic. But the whole point is let them eat cake. And so the crazy thing, though, is this gal is probably going to win. Even though Van Epps, quoting again, is endorsed by Trump, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, Green, and Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, the chairman of the House's powerful Judiciary Committee, among a long list of state and local officials. Of course, he has the endorsement over Afton Ben and her Marie Antoinette costume. But she's been described as the AOC of Tennessee. Not surprisingly, has been endorsed by radical leftist politicians and organizations such as AFL-CIO, the Equity Alliance Fund, and which is the political arm of the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. She's basically a social worker. The Democrat cut her political teeth as a statewide organizer for the group Indivisible. Now, where have I heard that name before? Oh, yeah. That was the group that was organizing protests against every member of Congress, and that I am convinced organized a protest in Lincoln County, Wyoming, against Harriet Hageman. And though I don't think that they were directly involved in Harriet's appearance in Rock Springs, it was very, very similar to the one that was in Lincoln County. And it's Indivisible was the group that funded a lot of these protesters to show up at town hall meetings and just get loud, to protest what Congress was doing. And the interesting thing about it is it wasn't just Republicans that they protested against. It was all members of Congress. Well, this Afton Ben chick she was one of the people that worked for him. Let's see here. Indivisible was founded in response to Trump's election, but we know that Trump is a symptom of sick democracy, quoting now, not its cause, the group declared on its website. Its leaders believe that there are two fundamental problems with the constitutional republic. And if you don't think that these leftists are absolutely out to flip our government, you are out of your mind. They are everywhere, my friends. And again, the signs down on the courthouse steps in Sheridan.
We want to fundamentally change.
We want to
We're
fundamentally
just days away from
transform.
Fundamentally transform.
Yeah, and at the time, nobody really took Obama at his word for when he said that. In fact, most of us were just kind of blew it off as campaign rhetoric. But when he said this.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Okay, nobody really thought he was serious about that one. We just kind of blew it off as campaign rhetoric. He had a big crowd, and it was loud, and everybody was excited, and he was just saying it's going to be, we all thought it's just going to be transformational when most people thought it's just going to be, the transformation will be a black guy in the White House. Okay, well, that was historic, and it was historic what he did to this country. But let me give you another one that we should have paid attention to, and it might give us a clue as to what's happening right now. Listen to this.
And Barack knows that we are going to have to make sacrifices. We are going to have to change our conversation. We're going to have to change our traditions, our history. We're going to have to move into a different place as a nation to provide the kind of future that we all want desperately for our children.
Barack knows we're going to have to change our history and our traditions. What did she mean by that?
That is phenomenally insightful.
Uh-huh. Now, think about where we're at right now. Now, that was Michelle Obama, during the first election. So a long time ago. But just think about where we're at right now. You've got a communist in New York. You've got someone who is pretty quickly going to become a communist in Seattle. There are progressive candidates all over the place. The left is organizing via groups like Indivisible to protest all members of Congress. And you have folks like AOC and Jasmine Crockett, dumb as a box of rocks, the two of them, that are very successful. And we can make as much fun as we want of Jasmine Crockett and AOC, but the truth is they have a really big following, and none of them are shy about throwing around the word socialism. And they haven't come out and said, "Hey, we're communists." Maybe that's still the last taboo in politics, but it makes a heck of a lot more sense now when you listen to what Michelle Obama was saying at the time. And by the way, after she made that comment, they jerked her from the campaign trail almost immediately. She was everywhere. She said that, and then poof, gone, because she was being too honest about the left's plans. Well, here we are, and the only question is, will Republicans do the exact same thing that we always do? Will we kick back on our laurels and just convince ourselves that there aren't true radicals that are in our political system, or will we actually take initiative and make sure those people don't win? When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. But I think this one's a fascinating one, my friends. By the way, the phone lines are open. If you want to be part of the show, go ahead and give me a call. 307-374-8989. Go ahead and ring me up. Back in a second. Are you tired of all the meaningless political drivel floating around right now? Endless commentary that really doesn't have anything backing it up? Do you long for the days of true investigative journalism coming from an authoritative source who really doesn't care how popular and apparently good-looking a politician is? Fortunately for you, that's what I do on Cowboy State Politics. New episodes are published every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and you can get them anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest way is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There, you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles I might bring up during the course of the program. Cowboy State Politics Live, the program you're listening to right now, is broadcast every Tuesday through Friday, beginning at 8 a.m. Pay attention to all of that other block-headed nonsense if you want. Just make sure that you don't miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to our program. That's right, my friends. We are living in the movie Idiocracy, but it is, in some ways, it's a world of our own creation. And when you have a group of people that believe stuff like this.
If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life.
Listen to the crowd.
Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we have that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Absolutely infuriating.
I never understood why people always said he was such a good public speaker.
I know.
It
I think he's
blows me away.
terrible. I really think it was just the mystique that was built around Obama, and I never found him that compelling. I think his cadence in his manner of speaking is offensive. I really find his speech is grating.
Did have a good laundry person though, because the crease was impeccable.
Yeah, the crease in his pants was impeccable. We know that it wasn't Michelle doing that, but you know the point is that it's that we are lured by seductive speech, and occasionally these people will tell you exactly who they are. And Barack Obama was very careful during his first term, and even more so in his second term, of letting the cat out of the bag. But I think that now a lot of his plans are, the curtain's been drawn back, and they're all on the stage, my friends. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? There are districts in Wyoming that they could go either way. Hazard County to the south of us, Johnson County, there's a lot more Democrats that live there now than even a couple of years ago. And so the question is, they've got a bad representative now, Marilyn Cannoli, but things could get much worse. She's dumb as a post, but could be worse. They could elect a radical communist. And let's be honest, the Democrat Party as a whole is not too far away from that. We're talking about the people that held up the government and had no problem of making little kids starve for 43 days, when all they had to do was continue the same spending until, to get them through the holidays. That's the only thing they had to agree with. But that was a bridge too far for them, because they had to have everything right then. And really, the goal of the Democrats in the shutdown was not to get the subsidies for Obamacare. Yeah, that was the public-facing image. That's what they said they were shutting down the government for. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was to get Republicans to capitulate. That was it, right there.
The goal was to make Trump look bad.
Yep. And, it's make Trump look as bad as they can and to make the Republicans fold. And the reason why the shutdown went on for 43 days is they never thought that the Republicans would stand their ground, because we haven't at any time in the past. Every time that there was a government shutdown, the Republicans would they'd make grand speeches. They'd get on TV and act like they were going to fight. These are the Lindsey Grahams of the world. By the way, I'm not a Lindsey Graham fan. I think that That guy has the weakest spine of anybody in Congress, and that's saying something. But the goal was to get Republicans to bend. The Democrats' idea of negotiating is you just do it our way, and we'll say that you were in on it. That was the goal.
Weaker than McConnell?
I think
well,
so.
That's
yeah,
a challenge.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough race, but at least Lindsey is good at talking the walk. He's able to go into the White House and talk to President Trump and act like he's a Republican. But then when the Republicans aren't in power, he's the guy that he'll go with the Democrats too.
McConnell just tips over.
Well, now he does.
That's why we've got John Barrasso, Wyoming's doctor, right on his shoulder.
Yeah, the most dangerous place in the world was in between John Barrasso and a video camera. So, different subject here. Another one of these. Who would have saw this coming? Zelensky, former business associate, allegedly nabbed in a corruption investigation in a Ukrainian energy company. I can't imagine who would have saw that this could happen again. And I quote, a large scale, and tell me if any of this is familiar. Maybe Hunter Biden has set up shop in Ukraine again. A large-scale criminal investigation into alleged corruption among officials of a Ukrainian state-run energy company reportedly pointed to a former business associate of President Vladimir Zelensky, according to a source familiar with the probe. 7 people were charged in the alleged $100 million kickback scheme, including Energodom, a nuclear energy agency, according to Ukrainian officials. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, which was a creation of the Democrats, by the way, believe that was Hillary Clinton, not for sure on that one, said that 5 of the 7 were arrested, but none were named publicly. The NABU officials said they conducted 70 searches over 15 months of the investigation. According to Reuters, a report cited a familiar source with the matter that said that Timur Mindik was among those charged. Mindik and Zelensky are longtime friends and business associates. Prime Minister Yulia Sheridenko, said an urgent audit of Energodom would be conducted after the agency's supervisory board was dismissed. So, who would have thought that Zelensky would be involved in corruption? The Democrats told us that he's the next George Washington, that he is the guy that is going to lead Ukraine into the era of being a republic, that he is so much on our side and he just believes in Republican values. I mean, didn't we hear that over and over and over? Well, the truth is that Vladimir Zelensky is a tyrant. He pretty much shut down the press, everything except the state-run media.
He's also a leech.
He is a gigantic leech, well, kind of a short one. He pretty much shut down the churches. There were several reports of Vladimir Zelensky's security forces raiding churches and shutting them down if they had a priest or a minister that didn't agree with Zelensky's policies. So no more freedom of speech, no more freedom of the press, no more freedom of religion. He's reportedly involved in a giant kickback scheme. Kind of sounds a lot like the previous guy. And yet the media is trying to paint him as the savior of Ukraine. My friends, this is no more than the enemy of my enemy is my friend, which, by the way, is a flawed strategy from the very beginning. I mean, you do stuff like this and you end up with Joseph Stalin. Not to say that Zelensky and Stalin are the same thing. I'm saying the same methodology gets you terrible results. And for a long time, the U.S. has been absolutely complicit in this stuff. You want to know why Joseph Stalin gained so much power after World War II? It's all the fault of the Truman administration. They're the ones that excluded Stalin from the nuclear program, and they're the ones that let the treaty include a phrase that created all of the post-Soviet republics.
Kind of gives new meaning to the expression, give them hell, Harry.
Yeah, exactly right. But Zelensky is not a friend of the United States. Like Agent 29 said, he's a leech, and he's going to take as much money as he can possibly get. Now, here's the other side of this that's problematic in this whole situation. You can't let Vladimir Putin win this whole thing. You just can't do it. Because it's Putin, and he's a former KGB agent, and he's a tyrant. And so it's the lesser of two evils there. But we've just got to be very clear about who Zelensky is and who he is not. He is not George Washington. In fact, he's more Hunter Biden than he is founding father. From the Daily Wire, Sonny Hostin scolds John Fetterman for voting in favor of not starving his constituents. Now, this is the story I told you early on in the broadcast that I was going to come back to. And the Democrats are in such a how do I want to put this? They're so far along in their plan that they can't give any ground to anybody that might help the Republicans because they're on a mission to, it's socialism. We've been talking about it all program long. So they had John Fetterman on their program, which there are news reports that they're going to start interviewing some more reasonable people or maybe some Republicans. But while they had John Fetterman on, they basically berated him. Go ahead and play cut number 10.
Well, Senator Bernie Sanders said the vote was a horrific mistake.
Just listen to it.
Governor
This
Gavin
is crazy.
Newsom called it pathetic and a surrender. Poll after poll found more Americans on both sides of the aisle blaming Republicans. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene blamed the GOP. As you mentioned, Democrats had big wins last week, so you had momentum. Why give in now? Why bring a butter knife to a gunfight? Are you willing to gamble that the GOP will negotiate on health care in good faith once the government reopens? Because if that gamble is wrong, 500,000 Pennsylvanians that you represent, their health care costs will skyrocket if you are wrong. And
Why don't we just berate your guest before he even has anything to say?
Well, first of all, MTG is quite literally the last person in America that I'm going to take advice or to get their kinds of my leadership and values from. And now, if Democrats are celebrating crazy pants like that, then that's on them. And now I don't need a lecture. I don't need a lecture from whether it's Bernie or the governor in California, because they are representing very deep blue kinds of populations, and a lot of those things were part of the extreme. And now remember, what really needs to win, the big win, is involving my state and other states and those things. And why have we arrived here after the election a year ago? We got to forget some of the things that cost us that election. Or now, for me, it's like, that's why I'm trying to remind people that kinds of the extremism, we can't return to those kind of things and realize we need to find a way forward. And I would like to, rather than cite MTG, I'm going to cite one of the new governor-elects saying that my election is not a green light to continue the shutdown, because I promise you, this isn't a political game. It is viewed by many of us, but the reality is 42 million Americans now not sure where their next meal is going to come from, and because we vote like that, or people that haven't been paid for 5 weeks now, and that kinds of chaos. Those workers have to borrow more than $500 million, from their credit union just to pay their bills.
Okay, so what are we seeing there? Well, it is Sonny Hostin, who, pick any one of them on that crappy program, The View. By the way, women, stop watching The View. It's rotting your brain. But anyway, what's happening there is a Democrat attempt to purge anybody who is at least reasonable out of their party. Because, like I said earlier on in the show, the Democrat Party has moved so far to the left, they're so far along in their plan that anybody that is kind of reasonable, even if they're a registered Democrat, can no longer be tolerated in their party, because they too present a stumbling block to their overall plan. And the plan is socialism and communism. The radical left has definitely taken over the Democrat Party. And so when you have people like John Fetterman who say, hey, you're kind of starving 40 million people, like they don't know where their next meal is going to come from, that's a bad thing. And this tells you how radical their party is, because the Democrats used to be the people that would be the first ones to be saying, oh, the poor 40 million people can't afford to eat. We've got to do something. But we're not there right now. Where the Democrats are at is orange man bad, resist Trump at every turn, and, darn the torpedoes. We don't care about anything else. And I think that was clear during the government shutdown. And, you had people on SNAP programs that, and just think about school lunches. So there are a number of people that are, dependent upon their kids having a free school lunch, or at least a reduced cost school lunch. Well, the kids aren't going to starve. I mean, no school is going to say, "Sorry, kid, you can't have lunch because your parents didn't pay the bill." What's going to happen is they continually rack up debt. And the same thing holds true for electricity bills, water bills. I can't imagine that there were that many people during the shutdown that had their electricity turned off or their water turned off. But what did happen is the bill continues to increase. It continues to accrue. And so even though the shutdown is over today, those folks are still in debt. And so when those funds hit their bank account, they still have to pay the electric bill. They have to pay the bill at the school so their kids can eat. And so really, we're talking about 2, maybe 3 months down the road for those people to actually, get into a better place. But the Democrats don't care about that. They throw, John Fetterman goes on The View to try to talk some sense into him. And the very first thing they do is berate him because he's too moderate, even though there are a lot of positions that I fundamentally disagree with John Fetterman on. However, he still supports Israel. He's still reasonable when it comes to the economy. But even then, he's too moderate for the Democrat Party. So that's where they're at, my friends. And if we're not very, very, very careful, the Democrat Party in Wyoming will win some seats. And it's going to be, I think this next election is going to be very telling. You're going to see a lot of money that's spent by the Democrat Party. And the time where Republicans can sit back and say, I'm in a safe district, I'm not going to worry about that crazy Democrat, that time's over, man.
I think this budget session in Cheyenne is going to be fascinating. I think you're going to see some of the same kind of pushback.
You're already seeing it.
Yeah, we can't. One of the things that our dear friend Tom Lubnow says is, well, these Freedom Caucus people, they've never passed a budget. Well, actually, we did. It passed the House.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting.
Well, if those 2 websites we talked about yesterday are any indication, I think you're going to see a massive amount of money that's spent by the progressive Republicans, the redcoats in the state, and by the Democrat Party, and those really are one and the same.
Well, remember what happened in Colorado, how they swung it from red to blue so quickly. Just an injection of all kinds of money. It used to be you run for the state house, it was a $10,000 proposition.
Oh, that's gone.
Yeah, I already have feelers out there that say there's at least $250,000 coming against me.
Oh, I'm sure there's every bit of it.
And all I can say is bring it.
Yeah, and your district is interesting in that, there are spots of it that are very, very, very Democratic, like 1 block over from you. It's Ken lives in a fascinating neighborhood. If you, during election time, you drive down his street and it's all, you can tell there's mostly Republicans that live there. But you go 1 block over and it's rainbow signs all the way down the block. But the truth is that constituency-wise, I would say your district is probably somewhere 55-45, 60-40, somewhere around there.
Well, I did win, and they didn't even primary me last time. So.
Yeah, I think that's come to an end. I think they will definitely throw somebody at you. But, and they're going to do that in every district. So, like I said, the time of Republicans being able to sit back and be in safe districts and not have to worry about any opposition, that time is over, as is over the time of cheap elections. You're not going to see any more House races that are 10,000, 15,000. It's going to be 50, 60, 100.
Yeah, and I'm starting out by buying 2 pairs of boots right off the bat.
It's a funny story.
The only way that you can beat that kind of influence is face to face. They go out there and they hammer them with ideas and propaganda and baloney. But if you go and meet somebody face to face and talk to them, at least I can generally.
Yeah, during the last election,
my way.
Ken showed up at my house. He was over doing door to door in our neighborhood, and He stopped by just to say hi, and he's got his campaign literature in his hand, and I said, that's not going to win you an election there, Pendergraft. You gotta get out there and knock on doors and put some real shoe leather into it. And I said, that's a brand new pair of shoes. You have obviously not been doing enough door to door. And Ken says, it's funny you should mention that. I just got these. Let me show you my other pair of boots. And he goes to his truck and pulls out this pair of boots, and the sole was worn completely through. And, it's like you say, Ken.
Actually, that was because I was getting dragged.
Dragged out of your house to run for office. All right, my friends. Well, that'll do it for today's installment of the program. Have a good weekend. Like I say, we're not going to have the program tomorrow, but have a good weekend. We'll see you Tuesday.